seen plenty of films recently being adapted or inspired by video games, from the Last of Us series to Five Nights at Freddy's. But many people don't realize how often films influence video game development, especially as they become more cinematic. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 films that inspired major game franchises. Number 1. Soldier, Halo series. Starring Kurt Russell as Todd, the film follows a group of children who are used in a military experiment to raise the perfect soldier. At this point in time, Earth isn't the only planet with humans on it, as we have spread to various colonies on various planets. Todd is part of the first batch of soldiers. They still have their emotions and whatever, but are otherwise trained to be the elite of the elite. That is, until most of his unit is wiped out, and the military starts breeding new upgraded versions. Ones without emotion or hesitance to act out orders. Todd puts his skills to the test again on one of these new super soldiers, and loses, and is basically discarded with the trash on a junk planet. From here, he basically teams up with some space vagrants and takes the fight back to the Space Marines to prove that he is the best, and you can't just kill him indiscriminately. People's lives have value. Well, there's no religious alien zealots threatening humanity in this film. The basic story sets up the creation of the Spartans in the Halo game franchise. Master Chief is basically the same character, a young boy who is inducted into the military experiment with a bunch of other children to be trained and injected with stuff so he can become the ultimate Space Marine. Now that we have the Halo TV series, you sort of have an official origin story for them, as well as the novels. But in my opinion, Soldier will always be the true origin of the Halo universe. The Covenant just showed up a few decades later. You can check this film out for yourself over on Apple TV, Vudu, and Google Play. Number 2. Event Horizon, Dead Space. One of the 3 films that inspired the creative team behind the Dead Space franchise. It is definitely the most prominent example. From the way the ships are designed, the way space travel works, and especially the whole alternate cosmic dimension, Lovecraftian religious horror element. Even the crews of each entry are very similar. In Event Horizon, you basically have the science engineer who designed the gravity drive being sent to check out a malfunction, while a team of Space Marines escort him. And in Dead Space, you play Isaac, an engineer sent to fix a communications relay while being escorted by a bunch of Space Marines. Soon after they arrive, both the crew from the film as well as the game begin to see dark visions, encounter spectral forces, end up talking to people who have mutilated themselves in honor of some dark deity from another dimension, and formed some kind of cult. While the necromorphs from the game are clearly inspired by the creatures from Alien and The Thing, the rest could definitely be set in the same universe as Event Horizon. Be sure to check the film out over on Max, Amazon Prime, or Vudu. And if you're brave enough, you can tackle the game on PS5, Series X, and PC. Number 3. Escape from New York, Metal Gear Solid. Hideo Kojima loves 80s and 90s action films. He especially loves Kurt Russell, which blows my mind that they never collaborated on a project together. But now he's got Norman Reedus, so it all works out. Solid Snake is basically Snake from the Escape films. I mean, they literally share part of a name. Even the eye patch later made it into the series, when we were finally introduced to Solid Snake's genetic father, Big Boss. The whole future being run by paramilitary organizations. While much is surprisingly steeped in real-world events, also takes big cues from the world of the escape films, where presidents now have control over PMCs. The games and films take a significant departure from one another after that. Metal Gear becoming more of a James Bond-esque stealth adventure, whereas Escape from New York and Escape from LA go on to be big action rebel uprising style films set in some post-apocalyptic dystopian world. However, if you would like to see what inspired the games, be sure to check out these films over on Amazon Prime, Vudu, or Apple TV. Number 4. A Boy and His Dog, Fallout. We've mentioned this film before in another list, so be sure to check out our 10 must-see nuclear apocalypse films video. But to sum it up, this film is a dark comedy that much of it hasn't aged well, depending on how you view the film. But it is perfect for the nuclear apocalyptic dystopia it takes place in, where morals and law are virtually non-existent. In Fallout, whether the original games or the Bethesda-produced entries, has several characters and storylines that tie back directly to this film. The biggest influence from the film are the underground vault societies, which in the film, there's a group who live underground in one and have formed some kind of American Revolution ultra-patriotic society. And it's just so awkward and uncomfortable that it's right at home in the wacky wasteland experience. Throw in a telepathic dog and mutated creatures. This was basically live-action Fallout before the TV series was dreamed up. Which reminds me, be sure to mark your calendars as the series drops in April. And if it's half as good as it looks, it'll be something worth talking about. In the meantime, you can check this film out for yourself over on Amazon Prime. Number 5. Die Hard, Max Payne. While the bullet time mechanics are clearly lifted from The Matrix, which came out 2 years before this game was released, it's actually inspired by the Die Hard franchise, only much darker. Basically, a hard-nosed detective is thrust into a situation where his family is at stake and he must take on an entire criminal organization in order to survive and save the day. Add a little bit of gruff demeanor and an appetite for a good stiff drink, and you could swap the protagonists in either franchise, and they would be right at home. The series eventually diverges heavily, the Max Payne games becoming much darker by the second installment, but then circles back by Max Payne 3, even making Max bald and retired from the police force, but still finding himself in the middle of trouble. I doubt there's many of you who haven't seen at least one of the 5 Die Hard films released to date. But there's even 2 Max Payne films that have been released as well. But in case you want to see McClane do his thing, head over to Amazon Prime, Apple TV, or Vudu to check them out. Number 6. Predator, Gears of War. The most obvious connection between the two franchises are the super bulky, ultra buff, hard to kill, lethal badasses at the center of both stories. I mean, there are literal characters in Gears of War that are basically the commandos from Predator, just under different names. The only difference is there's no ultimate alien warrior hunting them through a jungle. Or is there? Sadly, many of the actors from Predator series have either died or long since retired from acting. Otherwise, it would have been awesome to see them play some of these roles in the upcoming live-action adaptation of the games. Gears of War is such a testosterone-fueled, blood-gushing, and even sometimes traumatic experience that many games struggle with getting it right in today's market, filled with endless loot grinding and quick cash microtransactions. If somehow you've never seen Predator or any of its sequels, hop over to Hulu or Amazon Prime to check them out for yourself. You won't be disappointed, at least not with the first films in the franchise. Number 7, Day of the Dead, Resident Evil. There are several influences that inspired the creation of Resident Evil, including another video game franchise named Sweet Home. But Day of the Dead feels a major impact in designing the plot of a secret government organization experiment with a virus that turns people into zombies for military application. Of course, the Resident Evil series differs by having it set in a mansion, filled with tons of intricate puzzles. But it becomes more evident with the sequel, Resident Evil 2, where a giant underground lab is built directly underneath a corporate-sponsored city and funded by the government. Funny enough, the Resident Evil games did get their own live-action adaptations, which began to veer heavily from the game stories. But then it influenced future games in the series. Kind of an Ouroboros effect. Thankfully, they reined the series back in and made more serious entries. Looking forward to the Code Veronica remake and Resident Evil 9. As for the film, be sure to check it out over on Peacock, Pluto, Tubi, Sling, Redbox, Crackle, Hulu, AMC Plus, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV.
Hey folks, sorry to interrupt, but we just launched our very own merch store at fatninja.shop. We sell everything from t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more, so we would greatly appreciate it if you checked it out. All the proceeds go to our future projects, so it helps us make any kind of movies and short films that we want to make in the future. So if you got time, check out fatninja.shop. Thanks again, and back to the video.
Number 8, Saving Private Ryan, Medal of Honor. While World War II shooters were a thing long before Saving Private Ryan came out, Medal of Honor truly hit its stride by recreating the Normandy beach scene directly from the film. To be frank, it is an amazing and intense opening scene, and perfectly nails the tone of what you're about to experience. So to start your game off with that scenario, a fresh recruit heading into your first battle, and it blew me away at the time. Quite a few games have tried to recreate this moment, most recently Call of Duty WW2, but Medal of Honor nailed it the first time out, and no one has done it better since. Be sure to check the film out over on Amazon Prime and Max. Number 9, Dawn of the Dead, Dead Rising. A zombie apocalypse while survivors are trapped in a mall. Need I say more? It especially takes influences from the original film more so than the 2004 remake, with the Psychos, which if you've watched the original film, the survivors had to deal with some of those as well, albeit not as goofy as a chainsaw juggling clown, but still a rowdy bunch of bikers and a gun-crazy security guard with a Rambo complex. The survivors are forced to use whatever means necessary to fend off the hordes of flesh devourers, much like Dead Rising's approach to picking up random shit all over the mall and beating the undead to mush. If you haven't seen the original, it's an absolute must, so head over to Amazon Prime to watch it for yourself. Number 10, Big Trouble in Little China, Double Dragon. Crazy super ninjas? Check. Street gangs and mystical ancient artifacts? Double check. Some random American hero who has to defeat countless thugs in order to save the girl? Well, buckle up, because Double Dragon offers you all of that, and it's basically the plot of Big Trouble. From the visual style to the insane action, the corny lines, and some of the most ridiculous, over-the-top kills. So much of Big Trouble was put into the Double Dragon series. It was one of the first Americanized versions of the Hong Kong action flicks that were storming the movie market. And while it initially bombed at the time, has garnered quite the cult following. Recently, they announced a potential remake, but honestly, I don't think they'll be able to tackle the zaniness of the original, unless maybe the Daniels direct it. You know, the guys behind Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you haven't seen it, be sure to check it out over on Sling TV, AMC Plus, Philo, Roku, and Apple TV. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. Make sure to check out our very own merch store over at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go toward our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again, and take care.